So in this corner is our mental health. What is mental health? We want to be able to, we want you to regain and recreate your mind where you are not in a liability to life, but where you are an asset to life. Honestly, the quality of your life is dependent on the quality of your mind. I'm on big on your mind status because see, the state of your mind is important to me. Everything starts from the mind. Now, the story of your mind is also very important. And we're going to be diving into some strategic memory pattern, how your memory can be a liability or can be an asset. And majority of the people, their memory is already a bank of liability. They have depleted all the virtue in their memory and is now in a decline state. So what we want to do is to be able to recreate it and reframe it where you have complete access to pure mind, improve the story there, the sensitivity of your mind and the strategy of your mind. As usual today, what we do here is to challenge you to think. We want to help you to connect you to your higher life, not the lower life. And in this channel, we use those simultaneously. Is life doing you or are you doing life? So we want to encourage you to do life, to live life, not life living through you. Every time you are depressed, every time you are worried, every time you are angry, every time you are dissatisfied, every time you are disappointment, life is doing you. But we want to be able to give you a mental model and a constructed model where you're not in the extreme of positive or negative, but in the neutral mind where you integrate all odds to your own advantage because you trust in the highest good. So today we're going to dive into what we've been on our radio series calling The Unforced Life. The Unforced Life. Unforced life is so important because it's either you are living life from external to internal or you're living from internal to external. First life is where we want to travel to that place where life is profitable. Most people are on deficit in life. Majority of people you see they are on deficit because they are externally wired and controlled and triggered. We want to be able to bring you to that space, to that frequency, to that level, to that realm where you do not allow circumstances and events and people to deconstruct you and to debase you out of your originality. So we simplified our teaching where you become that authentic self, aligning to your authentic self, where you do life powerfully. Powerfully means that you understand the power of choice, which is your divine inheritance, that you have a choice, even a choiceless situation. And every choice you make, there's life in it or there's death in it. And so we want to be able to bring you to that conscious level where you are aware of your choice. And then we want you to do life meaningfully because you are really a meaning. It is what you assign meaning to, that's how you're going to experience life. Where you want to do life from a place of purpose, because purpose is more like, what are you offering? What are you giving? We want you to do life lovingly. One of the things that I like to deal with is what I call the light of love. And in the light of love means light and love. And that's where you can find a state of bliss. And so that state of bliss is so powerful because you're doing life in joy and gladness, which is supposed to be our natural state. And if you're not operating in that frequency, that means you're short-circuiting yourself and you're being on a liability to yourself. We want you to do finally where you live life compassionately. One of the things that I have forgotten that one of the greatest things that you can live is in a state of mercy. I show my mercy to them who are merciful. Where you connect event from the place of mercy. I mean, sometimes it looks like when you're merciful that people can take advantage of you, or maybe you are weak. No. In fact, it uses the foolish things of this earth to conform to the wise. So we want you to do life in this sequence, authentic, to be powerful, because the life, you're making choice that resonates, that is in alignment to your true self, to your higher self. So today we're going to journey. What is life profit? And before we start life profit, it's important that people understand that if you open a bank account, you don't draw first, you deposit. And we've talked about what we call life accounts. And honestly, people's life they are drawing from a zero place because they have no input. And one of the laws that we want to really think about today is the law of sowing and reaping. In all dimensions, whether you're calling it law of cause and effect, law of sowing and reaping. Interestingly, meaning that you are the cause of your experience. You are the cause of the quality of life that you are experiencing. Your profit is determined by your life deposit. And you can't run away from this principle. It means that if you're sad now, go and check back. There's a thought pattern, there's a perspective that is shaping. There's a belief system. So these are 5 inputs to a quality life or a satisfying life. Number 1 is the perspective. We'll call it the lens of life. Then what is your thought patterns? A lot of people don't observe about their thought patterns. And as powerful as it will hear that as we think, so we are. Meaning that the state where you are is a function of your thought patterns. And where we encourage you is to periodically be an observer, be a watcher. It's a watch and pray. When you watch, what you're doing is that you are observing your patterns. And if the patterns of thought are not going to produce life profit, it's time to reevaluate it and begin to re-engage that and begin to rewire your thought pattern. Now, thought pattern, your consistent pattern will create a belief system. And one of the strongest creator of life or reality is your belief. Because belief means you have already taken a step which you're living in, consciously or unconsciously. Every time you are disappointed because you have already appointed how it should be, that's a belief state. Every time you're angry because there's a mental representation, a mental relationship that you are judging the situation from, that's the belief system. Every time your relationship is not in harmony to that mental relationship, it's because it has already predetermined and pre-designed. So your belief is central to your well-being. In all ramifications, your career is a function of the empowering belief. Your health is a function of empowering belief. The quality of the relationship you have is determined by your empowering belief. Your proficiency and your effectiveness in anything you're doing is a function of the empowering belief. Belief is so powerful. Of course, we deal with you from a place of your energy, which is your emotion. A depleted emotion will give you a depleted life. In fact, your mental health is a function of the state of your emotion. And we call it the emotional selection, where you talk about emotional intelligence or emotional objectivity. And major people do not have emotional objectivity. And that is really major the problem where they are, because they don't know how to select from the many of emotions. So they compound emotion as one entity, but meanwhile it's diverse. So when you get into awareness of where we are, you begin to select your emotions and begin to deploy them according to the realities that you face. Of course, your action and your behavior is very central to your performance. So today, as we move in there, we're dancing. You see that dancing stars are born out of pain. 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 Now, I use the word dancing stars, meaning dancing stars are not fundamentally stable. They are more flexible, because you see, flexibility and openness is what gives you the ability to access wellness. But you see, rigidity is a breaking point. When I talk about rigidity, I'm talking about where people think that life is in a certain pattern or outcome must be in a specific way. In fact, one of the reasons why you are dissatisfied in life is because there's a particular way you want life to show, but you can't control everything. So we want to be able to bring your mind to that place of flexibility where you interact at all levels without diminishing, but utilizing them for your upliftment. When we talk about all things work together for good. So that's why I say dancing stars are born out of pain. So meaning that your true life is in flexibility, not in rigidity. Even in your standard, must be able to understand that if you have a standard, other people do not have standard. You're not compromising your standard, but you're utilizing your standard in a way that it will not diminish the other persons, because you need to be able to come to that point where your life is not so rigid. Now, so stop worshiping stability, embrace flexibility and change. What that means that part of our path, we have said that pain is part of life. The same way destructions are part of renewals. Why am I laying emphasis around here? I want to pick up something that people don't usually think about. Okay, so are you saying if somebody destroyed me, my image? First and foremost, nobody can destroy your image if you are not rigid with your image. But once you're rigid with your image, which is identification attachment, that's the beginning of sorrow. What does that mean? I'm formless, meaning that you cannot even form me by your anticipation or by your design, how you want to tell me, how you want to describe me. And I like the way that the Father spoke to Moses when he said, "Who sent me?" Say, "I am that I am." That's the most powerful potent if you take it over that "I am that I am." That's why the Lord Jesus Christ was always talking about, "I am the light, I am the word, I am the way, the truth, and the life." You see, he didn't have identity in terms of fixed identity. He understands his flexibility, how he can function in all space of life and yet bring his I am into that place. I'm the peace of life. So meanwhile, when people are toxic, you don't take that, "Oh, I'm in a toxic environment." What is calling you is the responsibility of your I am. When there's lack, you don't say, "Oh, I'm out of money." No. What is promoting you is your I amness. You see, that's why when you say, "I am poor," you have identified and you have attached to that sense, and that's why you're poor. You don't say, "I am ill." You cannot identify with illness. No. What illness is bringing you is that you are healed. You're a healer. So it's calling to your responsibility. Now, you go somewhere and people are in disorder. You now say, I am the divine order. Meaning that in that place where there's this alignment, you are going to focus on your alignment into the divine order. When people are weak, you don't say, "I am weak." You say, "I'm experiencing weakness," because you're not identifying with it. You are just defining it with what it is. And that's why destructions, we do destructive moment thought. So we want to collapse completely everything that you have identified with. One of the things that unhooked me from life disappointment is attachment. Attachment to a preference, attachment to an ideal, attachment to a concept, even attachment to a standard. Because you see, if you are attached to a standard, you know that that standard it cannot be universal standard, even though it might have a universal connotation. But based on level of maturity and evolution and enlightenment and illumination, most people cannot be able to comprehend it and standardize it. Meaning that as you're going with that, you know that people may not fit into your standard. And it's important we understand this because we're talking about mental health, which is really what. Where am I going today? I want to read something from Psalm 112 that really helped me. Is life doing you? Are you doing life? So, Psalm 112 said something profound. Verse number 6. He said he will not be moved forever. Maybe we'll look at it from with TPT. I like the way TPT said it in verse 4. 112 verse 4. Even in darkness, even if darkness overtake them, sunrise brilliance will come bursting through because they are gracious to others. So tender and true. So tender and true. Life is good to the one who is generous and charitable, conducting affairs with honesty and truth. Their circumstances will never shake them. So when people said, because I'm in office that is toxic, I'm shaking, I'm wondering whether you are in the light fold or in darkness fold. Because they are attributes, because it says now here, even if darkness overtake them, meaning that you are in a situation, in a state where it's a hopeless state. Let's look at hopeless state. He said, even if darkness overtakes them, sunrise brilliance will come bursting through because they are gracious to others, so tender. You don't talk about tender means flexibility. They are not rigid. That I will tell you how I learned this. Tender and true. Life is good for those who is generous and charitable, conducting affairs with honesty and truth. Number 6 says, their circumstances will never shake them, and others will never forget their examples. So when I stay in a house or in an office, in a relationship that does not align to truth, to honesty, I'm supposed to stay there to be an example that my attitude, my mental attitude will be in such a way that when I leave that place, people will remember my conduct. People will remember my conduct. That I refuse to be shaken. I refuse to be affected. I refuse to be forced. That's why I said we're talking about unforced life. Every time somebody makes you angry, they force you out of your bliss into darkness. Every time you apply for a job and you didn't get it, you get sad. You've shifted from a place of light, from life to a place of darkness. I mean, this is it's the spiritual Bible. It's what it is. Now, number 7, they will not live in fear or dread of what may come, for their hearts are firmed, ever secured in their faith, steady and strong. They will not be afraid, but will calmly face They are every foe until they go down in defeat. Never stingy. Stingy is not about, stingy is when people have refused to shine their light in darkness. That's what stingy means. You refuse to give light in darkness. Stinginess means that you were supposed to give love in the face of hatred. You're supposed to bring blessing in the place of curse. You're supposed to bring peace in the place of quarrel. You're supposed to bring honesty in the place of cheating. You're supposed to bring stability in the place of inconsistency. They say, never stingy, always generous to those in need. Because this is the point. Now, if your boss is toxic, he needs healing. It's not about you, it's about him. Because it's connected to a source that offers that toxicity. So he's already. When you're stingy, is when you recognize that the office is not peaceful, gossip and political alignment and all that. You are supposed to be steady in what you bring. But what happens? We become indifferent. Listen, one of the greatest things that will happen to you is when people offer you deceit, you offer them truth. And I've stayed in that place. I know when people think they are taking advantage of me, they are under me. I recognize it because I'm in a higher level. And sometimes I allow them to have their way because it's my blessing. I'm not stingy around it. It's to be able to teach them the light. So if all of us are indifferent, who will shine the light? You are the sons of God. The Bible said that the whole earth is waiting for the manifestation of the sons of God. I said they're never stingy and always generous to those in it. You know, their friends, all they do is take us. Take us. They've been friends for years. And if you do an asset valuation, you will realize that they will think that they are offering something, but in the meat of what they're offering is the intention is actually to collect. They are stingy. Anyway, they live a life of influence. I mean, this is what it's supposed to be. We should live a life of influence and honor that will never be forgotten. For they will be full of good deed. For they will be what? Full of. This is the real life where you live in honor and you live in influence. So when you say that, because of my mental health, what it means, you are taking in and not giving in. You're not influencing, meaning by influence. Emotional fluency. Emotional fluency means that you are influencing with honor and good deed. So, my take really in not forced life. Patrick, why are you saying if somebody disappoints me, I should not rant? Both of you are on a lower level. What does that mean? The Bible said, do not reward evil for evil, but contrariwise good. Have you now seen that? Influencing means that if my boss or my partner is cheating me, say, I'm going to cheat. Even when you condemn your partner, you have not brought influencing factors that can redeem that person, as an example. That's why I say we're stingy. Never stingy, always generous to those in need. People that are offend you, they are in need. People that abuse you, you have never considered that they are in need. People that are taking advantage of you, they are in need. People that are lied to, defaming you, they are in need. People that are abusing you, they are in need. Being stingy means that you allow yourself to be deprived of your influence, your good deed, and have allowed them to become bad. How did I learn about emotional flexibility? Let me tell you, it's just a simple thing. So I started by, I lived in 3-bedroom flat, and my intention was to paint it differently. So I have a blue room, I have an off-white, I have a green room. Now, I noticed that when I moved to the green room, the thoughts are different. When I move to the off-white, the thoughts are different. When I move into the blue room, the thought. So, meaning that I'm not attached to blue room. It may be my preference, but I'm not attached there. So, meaning that there are options. Then I can move to the green room. Maybe if I'm having a thought about a certain, to take a decision, now the blue room will influence me in a certain way. Now I move into the off room. I forgot that I was thinking what I was thinking in the blue room, and a new perspective, just that change. I used to what they talk about destruction create newness. So I have distracted myself from the blue room unattached. Then I move into the off room. Then I move into the green room. When I move into the green room, my decisions have been filtered not based on past, but by the moment. That's why sometimes I can switch off the AC and literally feel the heat. So when I now encounter heat, I'm not attached to the condition of the air. I can also be conditioned by the hot. Meaning that when I get into spaces, I do not have preference. Through my observatory sense, I'm able to understand how to integrate in that system. Where are all this going to? I'll tell you our major concept. We're going to be talking about misrepresentation and misinterpretation. These two key concepts is what is giving us mental disorder. Misrepresentation and misinterpretation. And how does this happen? And I'm going to break it down into mental relationship. And it's the mental relationship that if you don't understand, you now look at why, and there are 3 dimensions of mental relationship, both in what they call the negative and what we call the positive. And so by the time we collapse it, we'll now begin to realize that what you are calling as odd is a function of attachment to most of these mental constructs. So for some of you, your heart cannot be broken. Because you see, your heart was not meant, it's on a different platform, unbroken. So stop using the word, my heart is broken. What is broken is your ego self, like your need and your desire that was not met. And that's why the Bible says when hope deferred, the heart is sick. So really, what is hurting you or what is depressing you is because of your need and your desire that were not met. And this is what controls us. And you see, we are not taught to master our need and master our desire. And when you master your need and desire, you will realize that through this need and desire, that's how you filter circumstances and actions of people. Because you are seeing them from that need and desire. So that's why when you become needless, when you don't desire something, so what should I need to? Aspiration. I use the word aspiration. When I aspire, just use language. You realize that, of course, I told you the power of communication is so powerful. It gives you presence. It gives you power of position. So when you begin to master your need and the need of others or the need of environment, you will realize that the need of the environment that is not in alignment to your need is what causes mental disorder. That's why the spark of annoyance. Every time you're annoyed because your need and desire was not met at that moment. Because why? We go back to misrepresentation and misinterpretation. But before I move into those two sequences, let's lay the foundation. What is mental relationship? So this is how we basically live life. And these three things are so powerful. In Life Profit, everybody wants, frankly, the three sequence of what we need to do life. I put it down very simple. Is that everybody wants to be loved. Everybody wants to be loved. So, for you to be loved, you have an idea of how love should be. And now, another person have an idea of how love is. Let's look at husband and wife, for instance. Husband and wife, a husband will say, okay, hey, I provided you insurance, and I've given you health care, and I've built a good house, I bought a cars, I'm paying school fees. And for him, that's what defined his standard. Now all you want is your husband to be home on time. You want his presence. And now see, for you, love means present. For him, love means provision. Go back to desire and go back to need. Your desire means I need present. But he's saying, yes, if I stay here, how will I meet up? This is your need. But that's not your need. So your conflict with your spouse is driven by your need of love that you define as present. Meanwhile, his need is a love of provision. And if it's not aligned and harmonized, sorry for both of them. That's why it is harmony. So two great people are not finding love because number one, their need define love. Their desire define love. Maybe somebody is desiring a man that is prayerful, a man that goes to church, a man that is XYZ. And the man said, let me be in the field, be the prayer warrior. So he's looking for a prayer warrior who has a wife, so that while the person is supporting, he's in the field. But you want a man that we are going to pray together. Have you seen? So now the love is now defined mostly by need or by your desires. Take time to think about that. You are saying that your boss is a tough person. Your desire of a kind of boss is a boss that is calm, tender, sweet, talking, respect you. That's what the kind of, maybe your father has given you that kind of tender love. And in that tender love, it has become a need that will shape the kind of husband that you want. Because that's what you know. And so for you to be satisfied in life, to have that, to be said that this man loves me, is to see that we are praying together. We're going to church together. We're going to supermarket together. And that is what is driving this. So if it's not there, it is not what is being offered. It is your desire and it's your need that is creating your heart in that relationship. I may get into some problems with a lot of these because it might sound not logical, but I bring truth. The reason why you think your mother is hard Your mother is a disciplinary personality that wants the best of a child. You want liberty where you can come back home at any point in time. And so now your desire is like you want to be like other people who has no restriction. And your mom is telling you, in this house, this is how we live. I mean, I was in that problem. I loved organized space. I like, people get into my office and they sit on my seat. They are not observant. They lift themselves from the seat. They don't put it back. I used to judge them. I used to say they have poor character. How can they not put it back? They were not trained that way. They don't observe. They don't sit to observe. For them, their need is to see you and go. What concerns them about the seat? So it's not them causing me hurt. It is my desire and my need of order that is hurting me. Am I saying that I'm going to allow them to be messy? No. I can tell them, oh, please, when you sit down. But I can't force them. Because, you see, what is insignificant to you may not be significant to you. What is important to you may not be important to you. What is negotiable with you, maybe they are non-negotiable. I give instance, I like to wash plates every night. I don't want to see one plate in the kitchen. I don't care. But before, I would drag everybody and I would force them. I would shout things. They would tell me, sir, they will wash the plates in the morning. It's you that have created a standard. You say, oh, these people are hurting. I didn't know standard. They may be ruled, but that rule is driven by your need to be loved in a certain way. If we understand it, you realize that that's where flexibility, I started with flexibility and rigidity. See, what killed us, what hurt us is the rigidity of our mind, because we think that it must be in a certain way. This is beautiful. I love these. So, the second one is we live in satisfaction. We just want to find satisfaction in relationship, at work, in the society. Satisfaction cannot be seen outside. You're the only one who can satisfy yourself truly. I go to restaurant, big restaurant and over there. And I have a concept. Usually I create my food. Let's say like I want to do spaghetti now. There's a certain kind of spaghetti that I put the way it is. Like one day I was looking for a coleslaw that is potato base, Irish potato base coleslaw. So I had described this coleslaw with a friend of mine. I said, I want that. And they ordered it. Nice. They did their best. It wasn't coleslaw. Now, I'm going to approach that food. The moment I saw it, it didn't meet my need. It didn't meet my desire. So I am judging it, not from a place of compassion that they are not in my mind to create that satisfaction. This is classical. I wish I had known this all my life. I wish I will never be disappointed. Not say, oh, this place is toxic. You are the creator of that toxicity. That's the truth. Because you're judging a situation that is outside your control by your desire and your need. Oh, I want to be satisfied because I want to be promoted. I worked in this organization for 5 years. And he said, they've not promoted me. You have not sit down to look at the need of the organization. But you are carrying your bag, coming to work, And they are judging you based on a certain higher level of performance. I mean, there were 3 guys that were giving assignment. One was giving 1. Another was giving 3. Is it 2 or 3? Maybe 2 or 3. Some versions say 2 or 3. Another was 5. Now, their individual need and desire played out. One needed to be loved and find satisfaction by the boss. Now, the other 2 know that their boss could not have the capacity to reward them. So their reward will be within them, not outside them. They brought their A game. And it was their A game that they expressed. Of course, eventually the law of projection means that I have projected sufficiency and now sufficiency comes back to me. But people project insufficiency, lack, and they want to be promoted. It doesn't happen. Promotion doesn't come from your boss. Promotion comes from yourself. You say, oh, they are doing so if you are standard. Even if, yes, they have delayed your promotion, don't worry. There's a divine promotion. He said, if you are working, don't work as unto the man, work as unto the Lord. Because promotion does not come from the east, not from the west. It comes from the Lord. Every good gift and perfect gift comes from above. So I'm not going to go to work because I am looking at the face of my boss. I'm going to work because I am competent to work. That's satisfaction. And satisfaction doesn't come from outside. It comes from inside. It's a within thing. Is a within thing. Or, there are people who like to be calm, reserved. They don't want anybody to visit them. That's you. So when your friends who love to visit, when they break into you, it is your desire not to be visited, to be alone. That is what is hurting you, not the other people's desire who want to visit. You say, oh, but that's my boundary. You are only sufficient when you are alone. You are not sufficient when you're outside. Because we need some interdependency and interconnectedness. That's what I call the richness of interconnectedness. This is not a cheap teaching. I want you to realize, do a deeper reflection that what hurts us is within, is not without. Because it's not what comes into you that defiles you. It's what comes out of you. So basically, it is love, satisfaction, and now fulfillment. I want you to look at this. We're going to look at the negative aspect of it. So let's say you have love. Let's say you have satisfaction. Let's say you have fulfillment. Right? They are not external products. They are within product. And that's how you deploy them and don't expect them. Because they are expression, not expectation. Once you're expecting something, you already set yourself for disappointment because truthfully, we are not on the same frequency. Like people have been destroyed completely because they believe that their brother was in church and they hear the same message. And they've forgotten that not all of them mixed it with faith. Not all of them embodied it. But you just assume because it's my brother. And they asked you without a documentation, without a lawyer certifying over there. He said, can I have $1 million? You have the power to say no or yes. But you now say, oh, it's my brother. He comes to the same church. And he gives to you. Your desire is different because your desire is, oh no man, nothing but love. Your desire is that you have something that you want to comply to, you want to, that regulates your giving. But other people have what control they're asking. Because the intention was not communicated, but the motive was same. So that is why, over a period of time, what you shift is the state of anger, the state of hate, and the state of frustration. So let's do these 3 things. Number 1 is love, which is where we live. The other one is fulfillment and satisfaction. Then you now have anger, hate, and frustration. Have you asked yourself, what is the source of frustration? Source of frustration and hate and anger is a byproduct of your internalized need and what and desire. And that is what you are projecting. And that's why one of the strongest scripture you need to understand is to follow peace with men and holiness, without which no man shall see the Lord. So you don't see people to be at peace with you. You have to be at peace with them. That's where the power of acceptance comes in. That's where the power of non-attachment comes in. That's where the power of letting go. And that's the strongest thing that can happen to any man. Your disappointment, your frustration, your anger, and your hate is a reflection of attachment, non-letting go, non-acceptance. And that's where resistance will come in. So where am I going with this? It's the fact that nobody can shift you. Let me read. Please, when we are reading scriptures, let's read it with a bit of practicality. Now we said, he shall not be afraid of evil tidings. Evil tidings could be represent your boss toxicity. People say the place I'm working was toxic. No, you are the one producing it. He says he shall not be afraid of evil tidings, meaning there are evil tidings. In the world you have tribulation, but be of a good cheer. His heart is firmly fixed, trusting, leaning, and being confident in the Lord, which is where you find all your satisfaction. That's the Christ consciousness. His heart is established and steady. He will not be afraid while he waits to see his desire established upon the adversaries. Now, your desire cannot be transported through hate, through anger, and through dissatisfaction. That is not a creative capability. That's not a transformative energy. But it's only going to come from true satisfaction, true fulfillment, and true love that is sponsored from him. That's why I say greater is he in us than he that's in the world. I like that story again about two guys. One was the master and one was the servant. I used that analogy for too long. So, an adversary had come down to them because they had become revealers. So they were revealing secrets to the king. And the other people who were pressing them had decided to capture them. One knew that what is backing them was bigger than what was comforting them. They were not going to look at them and say, oh God, please open his eye to know that greater, the people that are with them are more. You are more than your adversaries. You are more than your frustration. You are more than your hatred. You are more than your discouragement. Nothing diminishes you. You are the only one that diminishes yourself. Nobody discourages you. The discouragement is a statement from your heart, from the core. And I love that. You see, he will wait to see his desire. He has distributed freely. He has given to the poor. The poor means that everyone that is... time has gone. Everyone that oppresses you is poor. Not you that is poor. Anyone that is taking advantage of you is poor. Anyone who wants to defraud you is poor. Now, what is the problem? This is where the problem is. The problem is misinterpretation. We don't interpret it from who we are. We interpret it for what we think it is. Jesus was an example of this. Okay, a guy has passed on. And he said, oh, can we go and see himself? You see, the guy is not, this sickness is not unto death. Now, he was seeing it from his responsibility as one who is resurrection and life. He wasn't interpreting it from the general sense of interpretation. Don't interpret environment from your need and desire. Interpret it from what it is and your responsibility. That is why you must own what is owning you. Most people do not own what is owning them. And that's the last one we're going to talk about. Misrepresentation. Frankly, everything in life that hurts us is a result of misrepresentation. Everything that is hurting us, because really, it's what hurts you, the same thing that is hurting you, happened to your friend, is not hurting your friend. I lost a brother, and your attachment to your brother is hurting you. But another person lost a brother, and is thinking about the virtue of the brother. And now see, misinterpretation, misrepresentation is basically our source of dissatisfaction, of hatred, of anger. But so now, for you to live a life that is loving, that is satisfying, and that's fulfilling, cannot be found outside. That's why it is more of deployment and expression than expectation. So today, if you have any mental storm, we want you to understand that you can reclaim that mental storm. By what? First and foremost, understand that every mental storm is orchestrated. That's why we started by the law of cause and effect, sowing and reaping. So it is your seed of your desire and your need that is not finding alignment externally that is causing you mental storm. So when you think about this, you begin to talk about interpretation and representation. I want us to have continuous engagement. I like to have your question, your concern by what I'm saying, but take time. Don't just throw it away. Reflect on it. And once you reflect on it, you know what happened? You find that love, you find that satisfaction, you find that fulfillment, and change the dynamics of hate, dissatisfaction, and anger, which are source of mental storm. Come to the state of calmness, of creativity, of clarity, of balance, and equity, so that you can do life and life will stop doing you. This is a wake up to a higher dimension of higher living. Thank you so much. I want to get your feedback. I want you to invite more people so that we can have this discussion, so that we can live a life that is dwell in goodness. Thank you so much.